Okay, so these are my all-out predictions for 2022 NBA playoffs. As you can see, the Phoenix Suns have been winning 7 games, which kind of seems unlike them. I mean, it would seem like it'd be done sooner, right? But maybe New Orleans, steals a game on the road, or they just win out at home. I feel like the Pelicans are a lot better than they appear to be. That game one against their against Phoenix at home in Phoenix. Well, that was the game where I'm like, the Pelicans could have been blown out, but these brackets were made before. These picks were made before their game ones, respectively. I did change a couple decisions. I think I didn't change like a winner, but the number of games I think I changed. The Milwaukee one, the Bulls one, I didn't change. I changed this. It was gonna be Nets in 6, but I changed it to Nets in 7. You're like, well, the Boston Celtics won game 1, but then again, Kyrie and KD. I think it's gonna go 7 games, but Boston might win game 7. All I know is this: with the Bucks, the next round, Brooklyn would have its hands full, but I still say they get revenge of them. So all series I see with the Brooklyn Nets, because their defense is so bad, I see the Brooklyn Nets having game 7s pretty much every series. Their offense is so good, but their defense is so bad. So that's why these games are going to be very close and highly contested. People playing their best basketball, and there are nights where the Nets just shoot lights out, and nights where they may struggle but still are competitive, and the games are just very close. So all of their series will be 7 games. For Atlanta, I have them beating the Heat in 6 now. Again, I had it be Hawks in 5, to be honest with you. But the Heat are so good, but Atlanta was just so tired emotionally after that other series and physically. I mean, not the series, but it was like 2 game 7s in a row. You win at home, you win on the road. You win in Atlanta against the Charlotte Hornets, and that was on like Wednesday, and then 2 days later, Cleveland, you beat Cleveland in a highly contested, emotional game on the road, and then Sunday you have highly contested, emotional game, but it's more physical and everything all clinks out. I mean, that Sunday was just like, the way Bogey and Trey were shooting that night. One field goal made between the both of them, like over like 20 shots or whatever, and you're like, that's the one, or 30, whatever. It was one of the worst nights you could have had for your backcourt, really. And I know Bogey's not starting, but still, Bogdanovich is still a huge part of the backcourt, even on the bench, along with Herter. But Herter did pretty alright. So I'm saying Atlanta in 6 because he only lost by like 24 points. So the 24 points or whatever, that didn't carry over, but it's more like a reminder just to say this is what they could have done if we don't step up. So Trey, Bogdanovich are going to be huge the rest of the series and win it for their people. Next people I see, 76ers, Toronto Raptors, let's have it Philly in 7, because Toronto is probably one of the tougher teams in the playoffs to beat at home, at least recently. Just getting rid of DeMar DeRozan, ironically, who plays for the Bulls, and again, I also have the Bulls being a tough matchup at home, and maybe in some games on the road for them in Milwaukee. But again, the results, outcomes, the higher seed getting through, and I think the only exception is the 1-8 matchup. Am I biased against Atlanta? Of course. Am I biased for Atlanta? I think, I think I have a little bit more bias, but I also say that in Atlanta's case, they've overcome a lot of adversity that the Miami Heat just aren't necessarily built for this season. So they'll crumble. The Miami Heat will crumble under pressure, but it's gonna be highly contested. Hopefully, the refs call it right. Philadelphia in 7, Milwaukee in 7, Nets in 7, and ironically, I think this is a series that may go 7 games, but Atlanta probably wouldn't want to finish it in Miami, but they could have the potential to finish it in 7 games. So that's another thing. I don't have to get perfectly right. ATL in 6 against the 76ers. They had this matchup in 7 games, but Atlanta has studied the 76ers. We know that, the 76ers have James Harden. And so offensively, the 76ers are going to be much better. Defensively, they're going to be much worse without Ben Simmons. And so that's the paradox. They'll be offensively much better, and you think they all they need was offense, but their defense was just as effective. And without Ben carrying over, he may play for Brooklyn, and that's why Brooklyn may just beat the Celtics in 7 games. He might be the pushover as long as he's not in his own head. He in that series against the Milwaukee Bucks, I definitely have it be closely contested in 7 games. So all these Atlanta series could have gone 7 games, but I just feel like Atlanta would be stronger by then. And healthier, much healthier, with John Collins back. And we already know how good they are without John Collins. Atlanta has beat Brooklyn without John Collins, but in these matchups, we're going to need John Collins. And with Ben Simmons potentially back, I feel like this 7-game series would be everything for both teams. And Atlanta would be fighting in the 8th seed, would be fighting the 7th seed. So that's very unique. But ironically, there were 2 stronger 8 and 7 seeds throughout all the adversity and playing tournament and whatnot. On the West, Golden State. Jordan Poole in the starting lineup is a brilliant decision. He's the reason why they were so hot in the beginning, because it was about him in the starting lineup, and Clay probably should come off the bench, but now you have an inverse. You have Steph instead coming off the bench because he's coming back from injuries, and Stephen Curry coming off the bench, pretty much a 2-time league MVP, which is probably leaning on 3-time. Like, in all honesty, I think Stephen Curry in his own right is just the guy who is, the anchor of this team. But Draymond has great defensive intensity and Clay has great shots, but Steph's the only real constant to winning. And then at least till the finals come, in which they reward everyone else but Steph. So Jordan Poole's the guy who's just rivaling what Steph does, like in the lineup, but he's the guy who needs to be starting, even over Clay. Whoever, if you put Clay in the lineup, that's cool, but it has to be Jordan Poole in the lineup. It can be Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, and then other 2 guys, Draymond, and then someone else. You don't have to add any other third revolutionary guy that would just weigh their offense down. But I don't really want Golden State to win, but I know they're figuring it out, and that Jordan Poole is the reason why they've been so successful. Definitely the most improved player, and he's my age, so it's unfortunate. We get Minnesota wins in 7, highly contested, closely contested. Memphis, Minnesota, very 2-like teams, but I think ironically is the 7th seed. It's like the Nets and the Celtics in their 2-7 matchup. The Minnesota Timberwolves are just a little bit more talented, not like a lot more talented, but a little bit more talented than the Memphis Grizzlies. They're not even a more cohesive team, just like the Nets are against the Celtics. They're just more talented, more guys who can hit big shots, and that, literally, look, Memphis has that too with Ja and all that stuff, and Bane and Jaren Jackson and Dylan Brooks. So there's a whole bunch of guys I can name, but thing about it with Karl Anthony Towns, and then Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, that talent is unbelievable. And then we don't even mention Patrick Beverly, So I think really the Timberwolves are just more talented, but it's gonna be a close series. It's gonna be up to 1 game, so it can go either way. It's a swing, just like the East. It's just a swing. All the games could potentially go 7 games, but but back to the 1-8 matchup. The Pelicans are just what if Zion comes back, or they can be pretty close to contested regardless. I think Phoenix relies on hitting a lot of big shots, but on nights they're not hitting shots, there are going to be nights where they're going to lose games because fundamentally their style is very based on fortune, and it's based off of movement and a lot of other things. But if the Pelicans can read the game plan, they can shut down the movement. They have good ring defenders if Brandon Ingram is on his game. So a bunch of other guys stepping up, but it's a big what if. CJ could have some great games, and complementing with Brandon Ingram's offense, CJ's offense, and potentially Valanciunas. And again, if Zion comes back for game 6 or game 7, I see this going 7 games. But Phoenix, in Phoenix, the Suns in Phoenix, in the 7th game is probably just gonna win that one. So yeah, I wouldn't rule out even an upset if Zion comes back. I wouldn't rule out an upset. I'm gonna be honest. But the Suns win the 7th game. So Utah Jazz 6 games. Surprisingly, again, this series is tied. By the way, I think they didn't update it, but the Dallas Mavericks won their game last night, so it's tied 1-1. Surprisingly, without Luka, probably for the whole series. Real talk. Unfortunately, he got injured in the last game of the season. Ruined a lot of people's money, if you be honest with you. So the Dallas Mavericks, they win. They steal 2 games, so they already stole 1. So they need to win 1 more in order for Utah to have this prophecy come true. And we'll go into the next series against Phoenix. But before that, this second round, again, I'm not gonna say it can go either way now, because we already kind of know it's a foregone conclusion. You get Phoenix versus Golden State. That's how we're reading it. Golden State's up 2-0 and all that stuff. And Minnesota, we would have picked the Grizzlies most times. If Luka had Dallas, or Dallas had Luka, a healthy Luka, we would have maybe picked the Mavs. But the Utah Jazz winning their series is predictable without Luka. Minnesota is a little unpredictable, but I predicted them to be here. So Golden State winning in 5 games is just because Minnesota might not be there yet, or their legs might get a little tired. They're a little young, but they don't have all that depth that Golden State has, basically. The Phoenix Suns, I literally, reason why Jazz win too is Donovan Mitchell. He just gets mad and, gets mad at his teammates. So he just scores 40 a night, and then, duels Devin Booker every night. But, then they have Chris Paul coming out hitting fadeaways like he did Game 1 against the Pelicans, getting hot. So, Phoenix in 6. And we go into Game 7, Golden State versus Phoenix in Phoenix. The only reason I'd pick over Golden State over the Suns is because the Suns don't necessarily have the not talent or experience, because Chris Paul is there and Devin Booker's there. But past that, if you're looking past those two, they have no one who would be able to hit a big shot ahead of 4 players on the Golden State Warriors. And I'm talking about Steph, I'm talking about Clay, I'm talking about Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole is he's still very green, but at the same time the talent is there, and he's being motivated by Stephen Curry. And then the 4th guy is, I'm not gonna say Draymond, because he cost the Warriors the playoffs last year, but Andre Iguodala is playing for the Heat, but I'm saying it like there's probably a guy, any guy on the Warriors who I'd probably trust as a 4th guy compared to any 3rd guy. Now, I know Bridges from Phoenix and all that stuff, he's pretty big, but besides the cutter, catch and shooter, there's no guy who can take it off the dribble. And with Golden State, you never know. In their history, there's always somebody who's just waiting for that moment just to unlock their full potential. So yeah, I'm not gonna rule it out in the Game 7. I pick guys just hitting big shots, but the Warriors know what they're doing, and Phoenix just slips up just at the last second. And you're like, oh man. Defensively, Chris Paul might try to guard Steph, and then Steph just embarrasses him. So it's gonna be probably very tough. But I got probably like a win by like 4 points for Golden State. Real close. Golden State Warriors versus the Atlanta Hawks. Very unpredictable. 3 seed in the West versus 8 seed in Atlanta. An 8 seed, 8 seed in the East, I want to say. And we look at the wins, but in the win column, if you're paying attention, they're not like a lot of wins separating. It's not like a lot more than 10. It's like maybe 10 or a little less online. But at 43 wins, like, this is still a great season for the Hawks and very underrated. Janelle was playing great. Bogey was playing great. But Trey's playing at another level. And Trey Young's passing ability is what carries him over Steph. It's literally Trey Young versus Stephen Curry. And Trey can shoot it, and so can Steph. Trey can pass it, and so can Steph. Steph can shoot it better. Trey can pass it better. And the only reason why passing is a little bit higher is because it all depends on how you can get to your teammates first. And some of the teammates, the guys, the veteran guys, a lot of them, like Bogdan Bogdanovic and Danilo Gallinari, those two guys are going to be key in hitting big shots. If you have the healthy roster and John Collins and Clint Capella, their front court, the Golden State Warriors front court, wouldn't be able to. I mean, even with Draymond Green, listen, they Kevin Looney or whoever they have at center, when that matchup comes in, are not going to be able to fully contain the front court that Atlanta puts out there. That's all I have to say. All right, y'all. Peace.